All right. Meaningful games in December. That's what we've been talking about for
Say what?
years, weeks, months, days, hours, but many years. And they're here. Like, this is a meaningful December home game for the Jets.
Deep December too. This is like meaningful Christmas time.
How you doing, man? Been a
up,
couple
baby?
been a couple weeks since we've done this. It's
I know.
life's gotten crazy a little bit. So apologize to you guys for being MIA for a bit, but we'll be locked and loaded here the rest of the way. But
Holiday season, baby. Got a pregnant wife too. It's like a whole bunch of shit going on.
got another little Spiga running around. Yeah. Cheers to that. Cheers to
Boom.
baby Spiga on the way.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a surprise. We don't know what it's gonna be. So
Even
could be a
better.
boy, could be a girl, could be another Gerard, could be Gerardina. I don't know.
Gerardina. I like that. But yeah, man, bummer these last 2 fucking weeks.
Brutal.
And the thing is, like, and it's the same thing this week. Like, we've talked about it many times. Like, the defense on this team is pretty stout, and they give me the feeling that going into any given game, any given week, that this team can win. And so
Yes.
I'm at the point now where, like, I don't know if I expect to win every week, but I don't necessarily expect to lose every week anymore either. So these last 2 weeks, that Minnesota game, like, I was like, oh, we'll see what happens. Like, I don't think they're going to get the doors blown off. And again, that was a gut wrench, though. That I'm still not over that Minnesota game. That was a gut wrench.
I've never felt that like
defeated,
deeply I truly felt that was like a Super Bowl game, or that was like an AFC Championship game. Like, I was edge of my seat. Like, I don't think I've ever like got up into like a fist pump or like something like this in a while after some of those like big catches. But like, I felt like hurt. Like, I felt like a breakup. Like, I felt like shit after that game.
Yeah,
and it was just like, because that was like the true test of like, would you rather get blown out and have never been there, or make it all the way 2 yards away and lose? And that shit fucking hurt.
Yeah, man. The opportunities that they had in the red zone there, and to not gain a yard to win that game. That the Braxton Berrios drop, the play calling, that third down, Garrett Wilson fell out of his break. There was nothing there.
And he had
wasted
Elijah
play
Moore on the dig.
Had more. I mean, just so many missed opportunities that I don't, for my fucking mental health, I don't really care to revisit at this point in time.
No.
I remember that Sunday very well. We had all our Christmas shit up, and my wife wanted to like do Christmas stuff, and I'm like, no, man, I'm going in the bedroom.
Leave me alone.
We're not watching Yellowstone. We're not watching Christmas movies. Like, I need to sulk for a while because this shit hit deep. So
as much as it sucked, though, it was like a telling game. And the last 2 weeks were telling, is that we could hang with the best of them. Like you said at the beginning, like, I don't expect to like win every game, but nobody scares me. No one scares this defense anymore. Like, granted, we haven't played like a Mahomes yet, where like crazier shit happens, but like, we went up against the Bills' potent offense, nothing. Like, the Vikings might be the most like red hot like offensively in the NFL, period, outside of the Eagles. Like, they are lighting the world on fire, and they didn't really do much. They didn't scare me.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson didn't do. I mean, he had, of course, a touchdown, but he didn't do much. I mean, he was held in check.
He's putting up 200 yards against other defenses, and I think we held him to under 100. I think 5 catches.
I think he had 5 catches for like 47, something like that. He didn't. I think he went over 50. And then Buffalo last week. You knew that was going to be a tough game. You knew they could beat them because they beat the shit out of them at MetLife, but of course, going up to Buffalo is another animal. You're playing in December, kind of playoff positioning on the line. And I mean, again, they were right there to win that game.
Missed opportunities again.
It's the name of the game. Of course, Mike White gets fucked up, knocked out for a while. But I think the biggest thing that comes out of that is that the respect factor that Mike White walks out of the locker room with, because that's all anybody's talked about in that locker room the last 2 or 3 days, is just Garrett Wilson and George Fant and all these other guys saying like I'll go to war with that guy any day. Like that dude's a guy. Like that dude's a dog. Just showing that he could come back from. He probably has broken ribs.
He
Like
has to have multiple broken ribs, but like you're right, that shows a lot more. It's one of those things where like you keep getting knocked down, you keep getting back up, and he stood in that pocket and was delivering throw after throw after throw and completions. It wasn't like he was just letting it fly and it's like it sailed over. Moore had a nice sliding catch. I think he had another one to the corner for Garrett Wilson, but like he was getting demolished and he kept getting back up, got knocked out, and came back in 2 plays later. Like that almost was more telling than him going out and throwing 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, whatever it is. Like it's almost like it showed a different type of heart that, not saying we haven't seen in this team in a while, but like as a Jet fan, like when you've been demoralized like year over year and it's like you're not really playing meaningful games, it's like nice to see like that extra layer of toughness. Like we had that fight at the end of last year where like we lost to the Bucks or we lost some of these close games, but like they had fight. They were scrappy. But here, this was like a different type of toughness. Like I think the defense took that next step to be like a championship caliber defense. The offense has a lot of playmakers, and at one of pretty much the most important position, as they say, you got a dog. It just keep doing what you got to do, keep playing well, and hopefully these last 4 games we could win out or make the playoffs and squeeze ourselves in.
do you know what I think too? That another thing that's kind of come to light for me is that we talked about it with Coach Westhoff when he was on the pod a couple weeks ago. Granted, if you're listening to this, you probably came here and subscribed because of that clip that blew up on Twitter. So
that's right. Shout out Westy.
Thank you for subscribing, following along, all that. I know we haven't been around much since then, but appreciate you guys following along on the pod. But we had talked to Coach about just kind of the similarities between this team and that 09 team, that first year Rex Ryan team. And he thought he saw a bunch of similarities. And I feel like now as the season's shaping up and we're in these final 4 weeks now, it's even more parallel because if you remember that 09 year, like the crazy shit that had to happen for us to get into the playoffs. Like we had to have the Colts sit like Curtis Painter or Peyton Manning and Curtis Painter started. Mm-hmm. And like we needed 3 other teams to lose in the final 2 weeks. And like we're like paying attention just as much to what other teams are doing at this point as to what the Jets are doing.
Ours, yeah.
And that team was carried by the defense. And I honestly, I feel like this team, I know Westhoff disagreed, but I feel like this defense is a little bit better than that 09 defense. Granted, you don't have Revis there, but Sauce is pretty damn good with Reed on the other side. But I think the thing that separates this team from that team is the pass rush. This team gets a pass rush. That 09 team couldn't generate any pass rush.
Well, they relied on the coverage. They relied on coverage sacks, and they had Cromartie with Eric Smith, I think Jim Leonard on the back end, and their linebacker.
That first year they still had Kerry Rhodes. Leonard came over that next year, I think.
But even still, like it's just like had like here. I mean, like I almost feel like again, I think we have maybe a higher caliber of talent this time around, but I feel like they were a little bit more like consistent. Like here, like we start a little sloppy. Or like we could still get like Dalvin Cook or whoever still has 100 yards, or you play. I don't know. They're not as consistent. Like we'll be in closer games, but they're not as dominant from wire to wire as I feel like they were back in that year. But I mean, we're still good. I think we still have a higher ceiling than they did there. And Sauce is the real fucking deal, man. DJ Reed looking right. I mean. I put him up against anybody. I put both of our corners, all 3 of them, Michael Carter too, up against any offensive tandem or trio, whatever you want to call it, in the league.
Yeah, I mean they did their job last week again against the Bills. Josh Allen didn't do shit. Diggs didn't do shit. I mean they held them both to their season low totals. I think if I remember correct, didn't they hold after the first game? Wasn't that Josh Allen's fewest yards of the season? And then I think they held him to an even lower total this time around. So I mean they definitely have Allen figured out a little bit in terms of containment. Of course, he's still a problem with his legs. How many fucking crucial first downs did he run for on 3rd down?
3rd and 18.
Right. That's still a problem. Containment on 3rd down with the quarterback running the ball is a big issue for them. It has been and it continues to be. But otherwise, I mean, the defense, you can't ask for much more from them. It's just a matter of the offense now, and that's where we're at in terms of like Mike White, in that you've seen more consistent quarterback play in terms of like making the easy plays, making the right decisions, finding the open guy, running through your progressions the right way. We've seen all of that from him, and we feel really good about that.
Mhm.
But to me, the bottom line is when you rate an offense, it's how many points do they put on the board, and they haven't been able to score touchdowns since Mike White's gotten under center.
12, 22, outside the Bears game, it's been under 20 for the past since October.
Yeah, and you're putting a
Yeah,
lot of you're putting a lot of pressure on the defense when you ask them to play that way. And there's no reason for it. It's a little bit play calling, a little bit execution, but like the talent's there, the opportunities are there. A lot of times it's penalties,
well,
it's dropped passes, it's missed reads,
it's the
the
little
play
things.
the plays are there to be had, man. There's guys open all the time. There's guys are dropping balls. There's false starts on third down that
on
push
or
them
on
out.
first down, so you're starting behind the 8 ball. And what
Yeah.
pisses me off the most is because like the age-old thing where you're like, your defense goes out there consistently, like, they've bent, but they haven't broke. And then you figure like once you're deep into the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, you're like, it's inevitably coming. Here it is. Like they've been out there for, the other team had time of possession, which doubles what we've had. It's like, here it is. This is where they go and have a long march. And it hasn't happened. They've held firm and kept him in the game, late in the game. And
Yeah.
it's like we can't get over that offensive hump late in the game. I mean, granted, and I don't want to say like, oh, look what Wilson did versus what Mike White's doing, but like I felt like they had a little bit more of that late game pizzazz, whatever you want to call it, and closed out on offense.
Yeah.
They haven't put up over 22 points since the Packer game. Like and I granted we had a shit ton of injuries. I mean, you lost Brees Hall, you lost so much of an offensive rotation. Who knows what the fuck the tight ends are doing? Corey Davis, I feel like has been hurt. He's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. So there's no consistency. But like, it shouldn't matter because you still have like Garrett Wilson, you still have Elijah Moore at receiver. That shouldn't change your game planning that much. Not having Corey Davis or Braxton Berrios doing what he's doing.
They gotta stop with Barrios, man. They gotta stop.
He should get
I liked it at the beginning. They gotta cut the cord. They gotta cut the shit.
He should get like 4 to 6 plays a game. All of those motions, all of those jet sweeps,
all to Moore
should go to Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, even like everybody's banging on Barrios for the drop touchdown. But did you see that third down?
He was terrible. He was terrible last week. He was ineffective in the Buffalo game. They drew up way too many plays for him.
He drew up too many plays for him.
He's not effective.
No, he's a great 4 or 5 receiver.
He's like the guy. He's like the guy you bring in one play a game when they don't think he's coming on the field, and he runs like a jet sweep for 13 yards, and you're like, "Great job, you did your job. Now get off the fucking field. Don't give him the ball 4 more times."
All the other plays that they draw up need to go to Moore. I don't care what it is. Even though Elijah Moore's touches and his targets have gone up steadily since Moore's been back, don't care. It needs to be more. Like, I would love to see Garrett Wilson get 12 targets, Elijah Moore get 10 targets, and then fucking everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, ride your fucking studs. Now that Michael Carter has been ineffective, you don't have Brees Hall. You're tight. Conklin, I don't know what the fuck he's been doing. Yeah. Like, I know Uzma's been like there as like as a safety blanket, doesn't get much catches, but like Conklin, like I feel like didn't want to play last week.
Yeah,
all these targets
he looked pretty disconnected.
But like even still, fine. You've got 2 fucking stallions on the outside in Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. Like to me, like honestly, to me, Garrett Wilson should get every fucking target until they can stop him.
Yeah.
Like not that he falls, not that they like, or they drop a shitty, like if you watch his wiggle on some of these like routes where he put Tre'Davious White in a blender.
Yeah.
Like he is slippery as fuck. Keep running it. Keep doing it. Keep running those quick slants until they stop it, until they double coverage. Then boom, go to somebody else. Like I love that he spreads the ball out a lot. That's cool. That's great. But like when Garrett Wilson has 144 yards receiving and like 5 catches, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep feeding him the rock. Figure it out. And all of his goal lines should go to him. Let him on the do what Dig does in the back of the end zone.
That's why that Minnesota game was infuriating. He had like 165 yards, and we're at the goal line, and we're like running plays for Braxton Berrios. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Or run the fucking ball.
Yeah.
Bam Knight. I mean,
Bam Knight's running. Bam Knight's running like a mother right now. Like, what are you doing?
Everybody hates on Ty Johnson. He's strong as fuck, and he's slippery too. Like between the tackles, like you should have ran 4 times. Don't throw the ball once.
You know what's sad, man? Like knowing where they're at right now, and like how I don't know if efficient is the right word because I don't know if he's efficient, but just like I guess how competent Mike White has looked. Like, what can this offense be if Breece Hall was still fucking healthy? Like, we win that Minnesota game if Breece Hall's healthy. You're telling me Breece Hall ain't getting in at the 1 yard line 4 times?
Like, if you want to play that game,
what can this team be if we had everybody?
If you really want to play that game, when did he get hurt?
That Denver game.
Denver game, right? Which they won.
Yeah.
Okay. Patriot game, he would have torched them.
Yeah. Twice.
The Bills game, we won. The second Patriot game, that is where they would have lead on the run. There's 2 wins right there. Bears, we won. Vikings, he gets the ball. That's 3. In the Bills game, let's call it a split because there was.
I mean, hey, I can't walk away from that Bills game like upset. They held their own. I would have taken a split at the beginning of the year for a split with Buffalo. They did that. We won at home. They won at home. Chalk it up to what you want. It really is going to come down to these 3 games. The Minnesota game and those 2 New England games are going to be the fucking ones that are going to kick them in the ass, whether they make
even the Minnesota game, because it's an NFC game. It sucks, but it showed that you can go toe-to-toe with the best on that side. I get that. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
The fucking Patriot games, I'm telling you, are going to be the killers.
Yeah.
One of them, it's good. I see it now. Let's just call it what it is. They're going to beat the Lions. They're going to beat the Jaguars. They're going to beat the Seahawks, or maybe they drop one of them, but the Dolphins drop the Bills this week or whatever. It's going to be a win in your win game at Miami against the Dolphins. But it's like, I would rather roll in comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because now you're, Miami's ever comfortable. Miami's a tough fucking place to play. The humidity is rough. Granted, it's going to be in January, but everything is aligning to that game. They won't even release the time of that game because it's going to be flexed.
They're going to get flexed.
It's going to be flexed to either Sunday football, 4:00 prime time, whatever it is.
Saturday, something like that.
That game is going to be the game of games, and just show up. Just show. I think I got to go to that game. I have to go, right?
I think we'd all have to go to that game if it's.
I'm an hour away. I'm an hour away across the state. Like, I got to go, But to that point, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves because we're going into
a little bit.
Not to be a fucking poet, but we're going into like the Lions Den this weekend. That's a tough fucking game. Like
Lions scare me more than anybody else in the schedule.
Lions scare me more than like Minnesota scared me. Like I'm more afraid of the Lions. I think
outside of their talent. Let's just like talk about it from like a like us talking perspective.
They're good.
They're good. Jamison Williams, I feel like, is due for a breakout because no one knows what he is. No one scouted him. No one's seen much of him. No one knows what he can do. He's due for like a huge 5, 7, 12 catch game, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. I hope it's not this game because Sauce will be on it, but still.
I was gonna say I can't see that. I'm not
against us. I'm just saying
that's the furthest thing from my mind.
When you don't scheme for a guy all year, that's why backup quarterbacks are like roll in the middle of the season. When you don't scheme for a guy all year and then they throw him in, it's too much of a wild card. But I think they're good enough to get rid of that. However, they're coming in hot. Like red fucking hot, and they're confident, and they're desperate to make. They're on the precipice of making.
They're playing for the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying.
If they beat us this weekend, they have the same record as we do. They'll be 7-7. Or if we lose we'll both be 7-7. It's
A
not like
desperate team scares you
oh,
more than a good team.
a lot of people keep saying like, oh, the Lions are gonna beat the Lions.
Lions are fucking good.
Like these aren't like the 2-11 Lions. Like I don't know if anybody's looked at the standings. Like the Lions are fucking 6-7. We're 7-6. We're not much better than the Lions, and they're playing a lot better than we are right now. They're hot. We're fucking cold. We've
The only
lost
thing that's good
row.
though is they don't play well on the road. They don't play well outside.
I've seen the numbers there, and that could be true. Goff's played fucking what 8 of his 13 or 9 of his 13 games indoors this year. Like they've only played like 4 outdoor games or something like that from what I've read. Because they played Minnesota indoors. All their home games are indoors. So they've played a bunch of indoors, which I've seen.
And you're coming off a cold front over here. It's fucking freezing or up there by you guys. It's got snow coming. It's gonna be a doozy on Sunday, but
the offense is good. Goff's locked in. Amon-Ra St. Brown's probably the best receiver in the league at this very minute. He's on a tear.
He's good.
Jamal Williams, you can't stop the guy in the red zone. He has the most touches in the red zone in the NFL this year. He's got like 1,000 touchdowns. Then you go compliment him with DeAndre Swift, who's a bruiser. Shifty.
Get to Goff.
And the line is really good. Their offensive line, they have a lot of first round picks. You have Sewell and all those guys on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense is starting to play really well. You have the number one pick there, or the not the number one pick, but Hutchinson, number 2.
Hutchinson.
The corner that they took. Who else? They can't think of the corner's name, but
fuck's his name?
Okaduma or whatever the Okuda, whatever his name is.
From last year.
Yeah. But yeah, they have some. The defense is where you're going to beat them. Like their secondary is shoddy, so if you're going to go in there and beat the Lions, you're going to have to throw the ball. That's where they're susceptible to giving up big plays, is the passing game, and that's why a lot of people I think love Elijah Moore this week. He's like the hot, trendy fantasy like start this week, especially if Corey Davis isn't going to be in there. Those targets are going to have to go to somebody else. Wilson's probably going to be covered pretty heavily, and so there should be some opportunities there for Moore to exploit a really shoddy secondary. But by no means is this like, and I hope that people show out this weekend. Like I was able to give my ticket to Dennis, and he's actually showing up, which is a miracle. But it doesn't feel like there's a lot of juice amongst the fan base for like.
Well, because you had 2 deflating losses. That's why.
Yeah, I think but here's the thing. Like I talked about it in the open. Like we've been fucking aching and belly aching and crying for just give me meaningful games in December. I don't need to win. I don't need to go to the playoffs even. I just want to play games that matter. I don't want to worry about, oh fuck, I hope we lose so we stay in the number 1 pick position. Like we're playing, this is a playoff game essentially. Like this is a playoff game. They need to pretty much win out or minimum go 3-1 to even stay in contention. But it's a playoff game. And so show the fuck up. Show up. How much your tickets could be to this game the week before Christmas? They can't be more than $50 or $60. I guarantee you they're not that expensive. But put the money out, buy a parking pass, and come support the team. Because if they win this game, that fucking Thursday night game is going to be rocking.
Rocking against the Jaguars, blacked out. Woo!
And that's the last home game of the season.
Yep.
And it's a Thursday night game, prime time. A lot of people were probably off that Friday before Christmas. And I just looked at the forecast. It's going to be a high of 23. And they're calling for 2 to 3 inches of snow next Thursday night in New Jersey.
Let's do it.
So that could be a snow game. It could be a cold game. Like that's going to be nutty if they could pull out this win against Detroit. They'd go into that game 8-6. Jacksonville right there on a plate to go to 9-6 with games against Seattle and Miami staring you at in the face. Two winnable games, but tough on the road. And of course that primetime matchup against Miami is the one that, like you said, Spiga, it could all come down to that. But we also want some help along the way too. Like you want to hope that it doesn't come down to that. Miami's got a tough schedule to close out. They still have Buffalo. They have us.
Patriots have a tough schedule. They don't scare me much because they got to play the Dolphins and they got to play the Patriots. And they got to play the Bills and they got to play somebody else. The Chargers are the sneaky, scary one. Because the Chargers have the Titans and then nobody. They play the Broncos.
Yeah,
like that one doesn't scare me as much because
for me though, that's where I say I don't really care because when you have the three of them, the Chargers, the Dolphins, like you have to account the Dolphins in this equation
Oh, you do,
because
you do. If
because
they win tomorrow,
like
or if they win on,
if New
but
England beats the Dolphins and we win, we move right there tied with Miami and we have a tiebreaker. Like Miami's not in the playoffs by a lot right now.
no.
Miami could easily fall out of this race and be where New England and the Chargers were 2 weeks ago. They could be that 8 team looking in. By no means are they secured, and they're not playing well right now. The defense is bad. Tua's looked like shit these last couple weeks.
You know who's really in like sneaky, like a scary position to drop out of the playoffs? The fucking Titans.
Well, they're the division leader though.
They're the division leader, but I mean, they've got a tough road ahead of them. And
Jacksonville, I think, is 2 full games behind them. I think they're 5. They only have 5 wins, and Tennessee has 7. That's the thing about like I get it. Win your division, you're in, but like we'd be in first place in that division. Like we're not even in the playoffs right now.
But
like it just sucks that like a shitty division winner has to make it. But it is what it is. I get it.
but you see like the entire NFC East might get in
Yeah,
on the other side. Like that's crazy.
yeah. Shit,
But
man.
I
Like
don't know. I mean,
it could happen to us. Like it could happen in our division.
look at look what they have here. Let's say hypothetically, again, Chargers win, right? Or Chargers or whatever. Chargers play the Titans. Then the Titans have to play the Texans, the Cowboys, and then the Jaguars again.
That Jaguar game
There's
could be for the division.
That's what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of sneaky outside of the obviously the Chiefs and the Bills, like the Ravens and the Bengals is another really tight one.
Yeah, especially
Like
if Lamar is out now.
he's
That's
out
another.
again. He's out again this week.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
not
saying
playing.
if he's out for a couple more weeks, like their playoff positioning becomes questionable, and so that's why I keep saying, like, do you watch it? Yeah, pay attention to it, but like, just keep
But don't.
winning. Just
Well, yeah.
show up, do your job. You win the games, the rest will take care of itself. And if they
Control your own destiny. It's all that matters.
if they end up winning out and they miss the playoffs, oh well, shit fucking happens. But you're gonna tell me we go into the offseason off an 11-win year? You're ecstatic. Even if they don't make the playoffs, I'd be ecstatic that they won 11 games because nobody saw that coming. But just go do your job. Just go win the games. The rest will take care of itself.
Go win.
Too many of these teams that were that are right in front of us, they still play each other. They're gonna lose games. The Patriots can't go undefeated the rest of the way. The Dolphins can't go undefeated the rest of the way. They're gonna lose games. So the opportunity of the door of opportunity is going to open for the Jets, and they're going to have the opportunity to get back in that 7, 8, that 6, 7 seed if they win games. And the next 2 weeks, these are the best opportunities to do that. Detroit's a good team, but they're a beatable team. Jacksonville is a mediocre team. I describe them as they could beat you, but
yes.
they're sneaky. They're mediocre, but on any given Sunday, as they like to say. And I mean, the Jets have had slip-ups before, but if you're a team that wants to make the playoffs and you're motivated to make the playoffs and you think you deserve to be there, you have to beat the Jaguars and you have to beat the Lions. They're games you have to win.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you shouldn't be in the playoffs. You think you're going to go beat fucking Cincinnati and Buffalo and Kansas City
on the road
if you can't beat Detroit and Jacksonville at home? They shouldn't make the playoffs if they don't win those games. But I think they're both must wins. You can't lose either of them.
No, if there's a game that you can drop, it's the Seahawks game. That's it. Like you can't drop an AFC game right now, especially because the Chargers hold the conference tiebreaker over us. Like if you can sneak in at 3-1 over these last 4 stretch, like make it the Seahawks game. Like beat the shit out of everybody else. Like you're right. You make a good point. If we're concerned, obviously, about both teams because they're good, but they're not good. Like they're basically where we were. We were shitty last year. We picked in the top 4 or 5 of the draft, and you're making a good run this year. But if you want to be that cream of the crop, again, you still have an opportunity with 4 fucking weeks left in the season. We're still right there. After all the mishaps, after all the injuries, after all the bullshit and the Patriots sweep, all that nonsense, we're still right there. But you can't with 4 weeks. It's crazy to think that you still have to play, playoff musical chairs with the AFC. Who cares? Blinders on, win this week, then win the next week, and then win the next. Like just win the day in front of you, and we should be fine. But again, who would have thought Fucking 4 weeks into
that
the season, and we're
and
sitting here like,
I'm happy about this.
I
Like
am.
I'm I thrilled the way they lost these last 2 weeks. No, man, but like I'm just thrilled that we're talking about this. We haven't had this in a long time where we're legitimately talking about the playoffs, and we didn't think that was possible. I remember you and I back in August, fucking sweating our balls off talking about predicting the schedule, wins and losses.
I think we both had 10 wins, right?
Yeah, I think we
10,
both
11.
had 10. Yeah, like I don't know if we had them in the playoffs or whatever we had, but we both predicted them to have a pretty good year. But like, obviously, we're drinking beer and it's summer and we're just excited and like enthusiastic about the year. Not really. I don't know if I really thought that that was going to happen. But
But
I mean, let's be real. We have 7 wins. Like that's more than most people gave us a chance to have this year. But you don't want to stop there. You want to continue because I think you have to like adjust this thing on a curve. Like you
yeah,
win 7 games, the expectations change. Like, is this still a successful year if they end up with 7 wins and they lose the next 4? Then I think that year is a failure because you had 7 wins with 6 games left to play. All you had to really do was win 3 of those final 6,
yeah.
maybe, and you couldn't do it. So you're going to go into that offseason if they don't win these couple games with a different taste in your mouth.
I know.
But I think that's okay. Like I think it's okay because expectations have to change at some point. Like
Mhm.
we're not like, oh, we're hoping we get another good pick and in 2 years, like we're in a different spot now. Like
I
we
haven't
have,
even looked at the draft, and I love it.
I think right now we're projected at pick 18, but that's only because we're on the outside of the playoffs right now. Like for the last month, we've been sitting at like 23 and 22 in the draft, like
Yeah.
way at the back end. Like I don't even know who's in this draft. Like
I haven't looked at all.
this,
Outside of the top like 5, I really haven't looked at all just because of like the studs that you know and the quarterbacks.
yeah,
But
usually by what is this, December 15th? We know like who exactly we want.
by October, I'm already like gotten like I want this guy.
Like
I'm jockeying for this dude.
we already have like mock situations set up on how we could like get our guy.
Yeah.
So it's just unusual territory, but I'm about the
I'm here
expectation.
for it. I'm here for it.
Things are best when expectations are higher. Like if they're gonna not meet them, whatever. But at least I can say that they were in the fight and they just came up short.
Yeah.
They weren't ready for the big time yet, but they were in that. They got themselves to that situation, and
Yeah.
I think that's an encouraging thing. But I think
But
we talked about it a little bit, but this kind of brings me to our next point, and we'll kind of wrap with this before we kind of give a prediction. But I have no idea how this season's going to end. These next 4 games are super pivotal. Excuse me. Win, loss, don't know what's going to happen, and obviously we don't know if they make the playoffs or how they do if they get there. But just right now, like, what are your thoughts on this whole quarterback situation? Because
dude,
you don't have the question answered at this point.
and that's the problem. So, and that's what and that not pissing me off. That's what scares me and freaks me out, and it puts me in a weird, uneasy situation because let's like play devil's advocate. Let's see whatever happens. You're going into next season, whatever happens, whether you make the playoffs, you make a playoff run, whatever. You got Wilson on this team. He's not going anywhere unless you trade him. You're not cutting him. Joe Flacco, he's going to retirement home. Mike White is restricted free agent. The way the quarterback salaries are going up, if he plays competent, he's looking at like a 2-year, like 40 something $40 million contract. And now you are on the hook. You can't not bring him back after what he does. So now you're on the hole for that. You're on the hook for paying premium top dollar for a guy that you're still not like slam dunk, like he's the guy, he's not the guy. Like it's like, would you rather pay 2 years, $50 million to Mike White or Jimmy Garoppolo? Like honestly, like serious question.
I
Like
don't
or a Derek Carr, a guy who's been there, who
I don't
you
know,
kind of know what he is.
but like, are they? I mean, I guess I need to see the next 4 weeks of Mike White to have a big. Again, we've only seen him for 2 weeks now, or whatever, 3 weeks it's been now, and I mean, he hasn't played
I just
badly.
don't know what you do.
He
I don't
hasn't
know what
played.
you do.
He hasn't played badly in any of those games. So like, is Derek Carr an upgrade over Mike White? Like, I don't know.
I don't like Derek Carr. Fucking
Like,
weird.
is Jimmy G an upgrade over Mike White? I
But
don't
that's
know.
what I'm saying. You put yourself in a weird pretzel because now you have to now pay premium money because we have a lot of free agents this coming season. You got to play Q. There's no fucking shot in hell you don't pay him and you don't want to tag him. Like, what do you do?
He's in like the defensive player of the year conversation. Like
That's why I
he's
said beginning of the season you should have you should have locked him up for an extension. He's gonna cost a lot of money, which you got to pay. And if you don't, that's a very shitty precedent that you had a homegrown guy that you were like, you know what, we're gonna stick with you while you figure it out, and he did consistently for
I
two
don't
years now.
I don't think he's a free agent this year though, because they picked up his 5th-year option.
This was his fifth, though, isn't it?
No, this is his 4th. He's under contract. Because you have to pick up the 5th-year option in year 4.
Did they do that this year?
They did it this past spring. They picked up his 5th-year option.
Was he the draft after Donald?
Yeah, he's 2019.
All right, so then it's
So
not the worst.
2019, 2020, 21, 22 is his 4th year. But entering the 4th year, you have to commit to the 5th.
Which we did.
Which they did. So he's locked in for a 5th, but ideally
you still got to pay him.
Ideally, you have to pay him now. You don't. He's not going to go into a walkie or so. But technically, he's under contract. He's not going to hit the open market. He has the 5th-year option picked up, but he's going to get paid fucking handsomely, and he should. He's earned it. Isn't his brother a free agent too? He's got to stay. They got to pay him.
You got to pay him. Did Quan get a 1 or 2 year deal? One,
just
I think,
a
right?
1-year deal. Yeah,
I would bring him back. Like, you've got cornerstone guys who've stepped up for you and played fucking ball for you all year that are free agent, that are up for contracts, and a lot of good depth pieces too, which is sneaking over the right. Connor McGovern's another one. You got to make a decision.
Yeah.
Before this season, you probably should have said, "Yeah, this is probably last one. Let's go draft somebody or sign somebody." The way he's playing this year, you might have to.
He's steady. He's steady.
He's consistent. You might have to pay him.
The good thing about him is you never hear his name. They don't mention him once on TV. He's never penalized. He never misses an assignment. Like, he's just a steady center. You never hear him do anything wrong. He does his job, and and he's done it now 2 years in a row where he did it last year.
At a high level, he's played very, very well.
But if you remember the couple guys that were at center before him, how many times, remember the dude that couldn't snap, Spencer Long? Like, dude was getting like pre-snap penalties every other thing. They had to like cut him.
Center.
Yeah,
like we had Harrison. Yeah,
yeah. So just like the revolving door that was before him, and they're penalized, and they had to bench him every other week. So this was just like, it's consistent, it's steady, and it's just such a calming. And that's a huge presence. Like, the center's the leader of that line. That's the captain of the line,
and especially for a line that's been
makeshift pretty much. But we could go on for hours talking about the line. But you make a good point. The guys that they're gonna have to sign.
Fant is up. Connor McGovern's up. Sheldon Rankins is up. Joe Flacco's up. Zerline's up. Joyner's up. Mike White. Nate Herbig.
Yeah, you got to keep him.
Solomon Thomas, who's played his way into a really nice depth position. Quan Alexander. Vinny Curry. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, like, Quincy Williams. Jeff Smith, dude, another one you got to fucking pay. I don't care how you do it. Bryce Huff. You have got to pay and somehow figure out to keep him on this fucking team.
He's probably my priority behind Quinnen Williams and Quincy Williams.
I would arguably keep him out there over Carl Lawson.
Yeah.
Like Bryce Huff has been the fucking closer. And if you watch every time that they mention Bryce Huff checks into the game with power, with speed, with athleticism. What's the Mike Mayock? What, bendy, twitchy? What was the name?
Yeah.
Bro, he has just been consistent. He just hasn't had enough reps. Like, I would make him like in the linebackers my priority.
I think they need to retool the defense and bring some speed in there. I think over the offseason they could probably use another linebacker. They could use another lineman. Safety is a big issue still. I'm not thrilled with the safety room right now. Whitehead's fine. Yeah, he's fine. He's not great. He's definitely not worth what they paid him so far.
No. But it's early. Let him figure it out.
Joyner early on was kind of that ball hawk guy, but he's just not good. He's misses tackles, misses help over the top. I don't like him. He's fine for like a fill-in year, but like they need to upgrade that. But
you need to draft somebody, or like you need to that needs to be a position you covet.
Yeah, but I mean, all in all, the thing is like there's pieces that they need, but like the core pieces are there. The only question you don't have answers, the most important one, is the quarterback.
Quarterback.
You're good at wide receiver. You hope Brees Hall comes back next year and he's that stud. You have Carter. You now have Zonovan Knight that's playing studly. He's in that equation. So
You
you're
might
running.
have played you might have played Michael Carter out of a position.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Like you look at this, let's say next year, because they're all under contract. Well, in theory, you're gonna have Brees Hall, Michael Carter,
James Robinson's technically
James
under
Robinson
contract.
is in it for another year, and fucking Bam Knight. What do
Yeah,
you do?
yeah. It's a hell of a room. I mean,
But there's only one ball to go around.
they could all arguably start on a lot of teams in the league. I mean, they're all arguably starters or
Yeah.
really good complementary twos. But the just keeps coming back to like, how do you answer the quarterback question? Because there's not many. There's holes. Don't get me wrong. Like the Jets are certainly not a perfect team. There's plenty of
But
imperfections there. But
they've shown that what they can do with competent quarterback play.
Correct.
Competent quarterback play.
The foundation is laid, and you're excited about what's there. The secondary is a huge part of it. That's fine. The pass rush, huge part of it. That's fine. Skill position players, huge part of winning. That's there. And so all these key elements of winning football, at least in modern day football, you need to score points. So you have the skill guys, and you need to stop the other team, and the corners and the pass rush are there. You just need to get the facilitator to that. And I don't know if that guy is on the roster right now. I don't know if they go back to Zach Wilson at any point this year. I'm hoping not. For me, the ship has sailed on Zach Wilson. I can't really.
There's only one way that he plays himself back into being a 2023 starter. There's only one possible solution. They somehow get themselves into the playoffs or something, and Mike White gets hurt, whether it's like the Miami game or like week 1 of the playoffs, and he makes a run. Other than that, like even if like right now he like let's say Mike White gets hurt the Lions game, and then Zach Wilson plays like above average football, I still think that doesn't answer. Like he needs to play through to like the AFC Championship game or to the Super Bowl for me to even consider that you like you should be given the keys back again. Like it's just not there. If they did, they would have put him out there against a shitty Chicago defense and said, figure it out, build your confidence on this game, and go from there. They didn't do that. That ship, I think, is sailed in their mind too.
You notice too how all these guys go to bat for Mike White every week. Like they're asked about Mike White, and they're like, "I'll go to war with that guy. Like I'll die for this guy." Like nobody did that at all for Zach Wilson. No. Like
they liked him, I think.
When he was going out there struggling and doing whatever, like they were trying to distance themselves as much as possible from Zach Wilson. And we've talked about it a few times. Like there's more to the Zach Wilson thing than just him being shitty on the field.
There's more we don't know about.
I don't think he's a liked guy in that locker room, and that's just me speaking. I'm not in there. I have no fucking clue. But if you read the tea leaves, you have two. You've drafted what? 3 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds the last 3 years. 2 of them have asked for trades with this quarterback,
and one of them just got here.
And one of them threw a fucking fit after the last game that the guy started. So, you can just read the room that he's not well respected. He's not well liked. And I think Saleh realized that, but I think he also needs to realize that, yeah, he was an investment by this franchise, and maybe he's talented, maybe he's not, but right now he's not the guy. And you can't just go back to him in a playoff run because you need to find out if he is the guy or not.
No.
Because
somebody gets hurt. That's the only way he comes back.
Like you're telling me Mike White wins this weekend in Detroit, and then next week on Thursday night in Jacksonville, you're going back to Zach Wilson. That locker room will burn.
The only way they go back to Wilson is injury. And that's why I think that they made Wilson the number 2 for the Lions game, because Mike White's probably fucking hurt, and they realized Joe Flacco just can't do it. I would honestly, if this was the case, I like make Strebler your number fucking 2.
Yeah.
I know it's not smart because again, he's never seen true NFL live game experience outside the preseason, but like you have to make it to say like put him on a fucking like pump if you're not going to play Wilson, because it's going to do nothing but muddy the waters. Because like you said, right now, you're like there's no way that you answer this question in any structured format outside of us making a deep playoff run with one of them. It's just not physically there. 4 games, it's not enough. You're not playing the right people. Mike White still lost against 2 of the premier NFL teams, and the Vikings and the Bills. Like, you're still going to end the season with too many answers rather than question or answers, unless you make a deep playoff run with one of them. That's it.
Man. I don't know that there's any scenario in 2022 going into 23 in January where we have that question answered. I don't think this is an answerable question now.
No,
and
not.
So you need to do what you have to do to win right now. And so you play the best guy right now.
You kick the can down the road. That's all you can do.
But you can't answer the 2023 starting quarterback question in December of 2022. That answer is not here. The guy might not be in the room. Like, I don't know how the organization feels. I don't know how Joe Douglas feels. Of course, Solid's going to come out there and say, Zach still has a future here. Zach is still our guy. This isn't the end of Zach in New York. I mean, you can say that. I mean, I've heard a lot of GMs. I remember fucking Gettleman saying we didn't sign Odell Beckham to trade him, and they traded him like 2 weeks later. So, like, you're going to say what you have to say in front of a podium to not feed him to the hounds. But I don't know that Robert Saleh or Joe Douglas believe that Zach Wilson is still the guy moving forward. Maybe they do. Like, maybe they're fully committed. That's their guy. They're going to fucking die on that hill. And if he is, he is. But I don't think that's smart, knowing the team that they have right now.
Yeah.
If you can't get elite to at least competent quarterback play out of him, he can't see the field. And I don't know that he's going to figure that out being the scout team guy every week. Like, what is he really?
You see nothing.
What is that doing for him? It's not really helping him. It's just kind of to me, it's like put baby in the corner and let him think about what
you don't even get the weekly game packages when you're running the scout team or you're the number 3. Yeah. Like, now that he's the 2, but even still, when you're the starter, you get 95% of the reps in practice.
Yeah.
And then maybe 10 reps you get as the backup. Like, I don't know. Like you said, I don't think there's no logical way to answer that question right now, December 15th, with 4 games left, with creeping up and knocking on the door of the playoffs. But you're just essentially kicking this can down the road.
Yeah.
Somewhere, sometime, you're going to have to face this and figure it out. And you're either going to have to swallow your pride and say, fuck, we made a mistake, and trade him or move it. And then you got a bigger decision moving forward. Or you keep trying to work with it and raise the floor and figure it out. Because even when Zach Wilson was good, it wasn't good. Like, his good was like 189 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, or a rushing touchdown and
Correct.
1 pick.
Correct.
But like Mike White's ceiling has been 360 yards and 3 touchdowns and no picks, right, and like a happy locker room. So it's like, I don't know, like, where do you, like, where's the scale balance? Like, what's more worth it? Did you really have to dumb the playbook down because Wilson couldn't figure out? Did you really take the chains off and let Mike White like have full reign? Which, like, they haven't really run like gimmick plays. No Statue of Liberty plays, no Philly special. Like, they're just running football plays.
Because that's the only way they could gain yards with Zach Wilson.
That's what I'm saying. Did they have to run the gimmick plays and the trick plays, the flea flickers, just to get yard like with him?
Yeah.
Then that should be your answer. If you
it should be. Can't put the kid back. The kid's fucking toast. The kid's toast.
But who do you take? Then what do you do?
I don't know.
2023 is gonna fucking suck. And this
I don't get paid to make those decisions. I get to drink beer and fucking rant about it on the Jets group chat podcast. That's what I get to do. But yeah, I don't
keep doing it. Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers to that. I don't envy them though for having to make that call. It's definitely something they're gonna have to figure out over the offseason.
Regardless, but whatever it is, Joe Douglas, and this, I'll say this, then I'll say it till blue in the face. Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have earned the right to pick another quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt.
Whatever it is.
I don't want to pick another quarterback.
I don't want to, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they've earned the right.
They earned the right to move on from this one and find another one.
There you
Doesn't
go.
have to come from the draft.
You're right. That's what I mean.
I'm signing a veteran or something. I can't draft another one. I can't go down this route. You can't whiff on 2 top 3 picks in back-to-back regimes
We can't develop quarterbacks for shit.
and then go with another one. Yeah, man. Well, I don't even know if it's development. Like my friend Josh talks about this all the time. Shout out to Josh. He listens every episode. And he said it from the get he said it from the get-go though. Like what Zach Wilson like came out of nowhere. Like it was like that class since they were kids was always Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. Those were the two guys.
Yeah.
Like
since high school.
Zach Wilson was never scouted. He wasn't projected as an even third round pick going into that. Like, and so like a lot of times, like those are just those pre-draft risers that move up and you fall in love with like things that they can do. But like, you know that Justin Fields can do them. You know that Trevor Lawrence can do them because you've seen them play at a high level for many years and do it. And so very rare, like it happens. It's not unheard of, but the odds of like the kid that nobody scouted just bursting onto the scene and being like an elite Pro Bowler are slim. And it looks to be the case. Like it looks like they fell in love with the combine and the pro day tape, and he might just not be.
We all did. It's not on that. We all did.
I mean, there were a lot of NFL like talent evaluators, like all these guys in the media that scouted him and like raved about him, and they loved his tape, and they loved the moxie, and they loved the energy and the kind of swag that he played with. But
if you can go back, not knowing what you know now, but let's say like they're like, oh, we're gonna read you. Like, would you take Wilson again at 2?
No.
Like, who do you take?
You would take Fields.
No, not saying knowing what we know now, but just like in general, if you were put in that position, let's go back in time in 2021 draft. Like, I hated Mac Jones. I wasn't sure about Fields because I feel like I don't know. Like he bounced around. It was too much.
To me, Fields was always the number 2 guy. Like when we won those games.
Did you think so? That's what I'm saying. Did you
when we won those games, then we realized we weren't going to get the number 1 pick anymore, and that Lawrence was going to go 1 to Jacksonville. For like a month, it was always like, oh, Justin Fields is going to fall to the Jets now, and it really didn't come till like February going into March, where like Zach Wilson started to rise a little bit, but like that whole season. Even going into January, it was always Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, 1-2. Yeah. Zach Wilson wasn't even talked about. He really popped up in January, going into March when like all the scouting and the mock drafts and all that started happening. Again, the Jets scouted him, so I mean they had their grades on him. They liked what they liked, and they made a decision.
And everyone fell in love with him in the draft. The draft process, and that's kind of what we talked about with Westy. Same thing, like in that draft process, like can you mask that other shit? Like the intangibles, like can you see when a guy's got like he's a fucking like Jalen Hurts? Like, can you see in that draft process the things that you can't write on paper? Like that he's a leader, that he's a winner, that the guys gravitate to him, that he like figures it out, like that he like. Are you able to see that in some capacity in the draft process?
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, the answer is probably got to be no, because look at how many times guys who get drafted in the teens or in later rounds do better, arguably, than the top 2 guys.
Yeah, for sure. I agree, man. Unfortunately, it seems like the early verdict is that they made the wrong decision. I mean, could Wilson come back and
I won't do this again?
Could they rock with Wilson next year and he comes back and he figures it out? Maybe, but I mean.
No,
the odds aren't in his favor that that's going to happen. I mean, to me, that's a highly unlikely scenario.
He won't even win back Jets Twitter unless he wins the Super Bowl, which is undefeated, by the way, because there's no again, I love him, but there's no reason that Bam Knight should have won Pepsi Rookie of the Week over Brock Purdy. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is. Let's call it. And again, I love it. Jets Twitter, shout out. Love you all. You guys, all the likes, all the love on everything. We're undefeated. We've shown that we can truly take. We have 10 Rookie of the Weeks this year.
Yeah.
And let's say like 7 of them.
10 and 14 weeks, and one of them was a bye.
What was the one where like Kenneth Walker had like 190 yards, 3 touchdowns?
Yeah.
And Garrett Wilson beat him out with like 4 catches and a touchdown.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, man, shout out to us, though.
Yeah, it's Jets Twitter's undefeated. Legends. Just before we wrap here, how are you feeling heading into Sunday? What are we looking at?
I think it's going to be another nail biter. I think the Jets win. I think they squeak it out. I don't see a blowout win. Was it 31-10 like we did
Yeah.
against the Bears? I home, it's cold. I still don't think we score over 21 points. 17-13 Jets.
Interesting. See, I think Detroit. I don't know, man. I'm torn on this game because I think Detroit's been able to move the ball like at will.
I know,
but this defense is hard to move the ball on. So and the thing is, like you said, it's going to be cold. I don't know if there's going to be some weather. It doesn't sound like there's going to be any kind of weather, but it's going to be cold. They might have to run the ball a lot, which they can do. And we've been susceptible to the run, but I don't know if I see them scoring like 31, but I think they're going to score. Like, I don't know. I feel like the Jets are going to win. I feel like there's going to be good energy in that building. They're going to they feel like they've played better at home recently. Take the New England game out, but they've come with energy and they've
came out showing.
They've played inspired at home. I don't know. I think they pull something out like 27-21, like maybe a late field goal pulls it out. Like they're ahead 24-21, kick another field goal to ice it, something like that. But I think they're going to pull it out by less than 6. It's going to be a close game. They're going to have to score points. You're not going to keep Detroit off the scoreboard. So things are going to have to change from the last 2 weeks. They're going to have to score points. They're going to have to score a couple touchdowns at least to be in this game. So it'd be nice to get a turnover on defense. The defense played well, but
give me a pick six. Give me a fucking sauce pick 6.
They haven't been able to generate turnovers these last 4 or 5 weeks, and I think that's played a big role too. In there's no really momentum shifting plays or swing plays. You're just kind of waiting for the other foot to drop, but sometimes you just need a turnover to like take that momentum and kind of shift how the pace of the game is going your way. So I'm really hoping for at least one turnover this Sunday for the Jets to just kind of slow this Lions offense down because they've been scorching hot, man. But
yeah,
hopefully when we chat next week, we're talking about a big Jets dub on a short week, obviously next week too. So we're gonna have to get this recording in probably by Monday or Tuesday, so we could get this out to you guys before Thursday because I'll be drunk by 3:00 on Thursday. And
oh god, yeah,
in lot J21, right before that Jags game. So
I wish I was coming home for that. I really do. We thought about it.
Me too, Spiga.
I want to come home.
Me too.
Come to the fucking Miami game. We're gonna show out down in nice weather.
If it's winning, we're in. There's a solid possibility I'll be there, my friend. But that's going to wrap it here for us. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, all the new subscribers that have come our way recently. Tell all your friends about us. Appreciate the love. Subscribe, like, rate, leave the comments.
And don't forget to vote for the Pro Bowl. We got Sauce. We got DJ Reed. We got Quan Alexander, CJ Mosley, Q. Put Breece Hall in it. I don't care. He hasn't played in 3 weeks. Who gives a shit? Garrett Wilson. And wait, real quick. We might sweep offensive and defense rookie of the year this year.
Yeah, they're the money line favorites. Yeah. Sauce is a heavy favorite. He's like minus 500.
He's like, yeah. And I think he's the lead Pro Bowl getter for the AFC.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So all good shit. Hopefully we could put the cherry on top of all this good stuff with a win on Sunday. But appreciate you tuning in. We'll talk to you next week after hopefully a big Jets dub over Detroit. See you later. Jet up, baby.
Take flight, baby.